tough out there right now for anyone looking to get hired. But whether you've been laid off or a recent college graduate looking for work, the job search can be depressing and distressing. But we have some help for you today. Joining us to offer some advice for any job seeker is career coach Meredith Haberfeld. Thank you so much for being here. And she's got 5 tough love tips for finding a job. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure
We've
to be
also
here.
got sitting here Joanna and Betty. Welcome. Now, I know you both are looking for work. Betty, you were laid off about 3.5 years ago as an editor. Tell us what's important for you to get out of being here today.
The shortest answer is just getting a job.
Yeah, and what's been the toughest part of finding work?
The hardest part, besides the emotional part of it, which you nailed completely, is the demoralizing, depressing part, is getting any response from anybody, because almost everybody insists now that you apply online and you get nothing back, not even an auto response. I've heard from maybe a dozen of the 150 people I've sent things to.
And that face-to-face contact is so important. I know I craved that too, and I think it certainly helps in getting a gig. Now, Joanna, you're going to be graduating like next week, right?
Yes,
this week.
This week.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
What's been the toughest part for you?
For me, I've interned for over a year at a major communications company, and I've acquired all of this experience. It's been amazing to be in the field and see what's happening. And it's actually getting the job. It's transitioning from being a college graduate to, okay, now what? You know, it's been my whole life working to this point. And now I have to go out there and I'm on my own.
Yeah, well, you guys are in the right place today, because I know that Meredith has some tough love tips for finding a job, no matter what stage of life you're in and what position you're in. So let's count them down, Meredith. What's tip number 5?
Tip number 5 is start your job search early. As you already have experienced, it is a long road. It's like riding a bicycle up a very long hill, and it can be harder when you don't have something else going on. So if you're in college, you want to start your job search before you've graduated. And for those of you who are in a job but have heard wind of potential layoffs, you actually want to start getting to work at it now. You got to do a great job, double time it.
Yeah, don't wait until you're out of the job to look for a job. You've got to start as soon as possible. And what about tip number 4?
Tough love tip number 4 is show off what you've got. This is not the time to be
This is not about unbuttoning another button on the blouse. What are we talking about here?
This is about demonstrating everything you've got. Ask for more responsibility. Figure out what your boss really values, and then do everything you can to demonstrate that. You got to work your tail off. Now is the time that you have to be the one working harder and producing more results than anyone else in the place.
Now, tip number 3 is about managing your time wisely. And I want you to explain that, but I also want you to talk about your 80-20 rule.
Yep. Tip number 3, as you said, is you've got to really be thoughtful about how you use your time. And this is especially good for you, Betty, and anybody in your situation. The biggest mistake that I see job seekers make today is spending a lot of time on the computer. You need to have a great social media profile. You need to submit your resumes online in many instances, but then push away from the computer, and you actually have to get out on the skinny branches and work on real, live, human-to-human contact. 20% of your time should be the online work, and 80% of your time building and deepening your relationships.
Wow. Now, that is some need-to-know information, but up next, is it better to settle for something less than perfect or to hold out for your dream job? Meredith is going to weigh in on that when we come back. Plus, she's also going to reveal something we can all learn from, the number 1 tough love tip for finding a job.
Coming up.
I always say that it doesn't really matter what the job is, it's who you know.
How to take what you've got and network your way up. Plus,
sitting is one of the worst things for your health. Right. Sitting is the new smoking.
It's time to take a stand for your health. And later, meet the man who takes weight loss to the extreme.
Whether you want to lose 10 pounds or whether you want to lose 200 pounds, it all begins with a single commitment.
Extreme Makeover Weight Loss Edition's Chris Powell, when the revolution continues.
The revolution will continue in a moment here on ABC.
We're back with career coach Meredith Haberfeld. and some viewers who are trying to find work. Now, we've been counting down Meredith's top 5 tough love tips for getting hired, and we're down to the last 2. Meredith, what's tough love tip number 2?
Number 2 is zone in on what matters. You really want to get your head around what are the characteristics and skills that your ideal future employer cares about in you, and then whatever job you're doing, whether you're in an internship, whether you're doing something that has nothing to do with the actual field that you want to be in, focus in on learning and mastering the skills that future dream job needs, and then figure out, this is very important, how to tell that story in your interviews.
Gotcha. And we've all been waiting for the number 1 tough love tip. I wish we had a drum roll. Meredith, tell us what it is.
All right, everyone, listen carefully. The number 1 thing that people who are getting jobs, the thing they're doing is focusing their time on building their network from wherever you're starting. It doesn't matter who you already know. What matters is that you dedicate your time and attention in your job search to building and deepening your relationships. You can start with your friends, your coworkers from prior jobs, people in your church, people in your neighborhood, friends of family. They need to understand what you're looking for and why you're the right fit for that. And then this is a very, very important point that most people miss. At the end of those conversations, after a really authentic thank you, you want to make sure to ask, who else do they know that would be useful for you to be speaking with?
That's a good tip. That's a really good tip. I always say that it doesn't really matter what the job is, it's who you know, and widening your search and networking is very, very important.
Keep those branches
what tips do you have for introverts, though? Because not everybody wants to go out there and schmooze with everybody.
The best advice I have is, in your own natural, authentic way, be out there connecting with people, really out on the skinny branches. And you have to focus yourself away from the thoughts of I'm a bother and really hone in on that thought that I am worthy of their time to be having this conversation because I am going to work my tail off in this next job.
Do you guys think these rules or tips can apply for you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Looking to expand on what I'm doing, networking, really getting myself out there.
Good. And how about you, Betty?
I'm still going to go, as somebody who's been out a long time, is how to get there. I've done the networking. I've had friends recommend me for jobs. I've gone in a few interviews. But how do you get someone to respond to you when their job posting says no phone calls? Don't come here. File
The
on the
most
internet.
important thing is to focus your attention away from, did I get this job? Will I get this job? How do I get this job? And focus more on building and cultivating relationships everywhere you can. They don't have to be somebody who can give you a job. They can be 6 degrees away from the person who can give you the job, but be focusing on those relationships and being somebody that matters to them and having a real deep relationship and cultivating those day in and day out. My suggestion for people is 3 contacts like that every single day.
I think that's great advice, Meredith. Thank you so much for the tough love tip.